Hi, everyone, and welcome to VDAO's Antifragile Network States mini-series on the Greenpill podcast. We're really excited to kick this season off. And I think most of us would agree that we're living through this period of accelerating change in the systems that we depend upon. And our global infrastructure, from the financial system to energy systems to food, water, and even the supply chains in the economy, are proving increasingly fragile. And when one of these components fails, the entire system is at risk. This series sets out to explore in concrete terms what we can do to become more resilient, both individually and within our local communities. We believe that humanity already has the technology we need to build a more anti-fragile future through leveraging decentralized systems that grow stronger under stress. So, out of this period of crisis and change, VDAO is facilitating the emergence of anti-fragile network states. These are global communities with local hubs focused on taking the principles of crypto self-sovereignty beyond finance to our food systems, water systems, energy, housing, and more. And we're excited to kick things off by looking at a macro scale. This first episode is titled The Next Supercycle. And joining Marc and I for this conversation is Joseph Lubin, founder of ConsenSys, co-founder of Ethereum, and chairman of SharpLink. Joseph needs no introduction, and on his journey in the Ethereum ecosystem over the past 10 years and more, his work has been laying the foundation for a more decentralized and anti-fragile future. Together, we'll be exploring how building network states can be the next phase in the evolution of crypto, a healthy, anti-fragile response to change, transforming global crisis into local resilience. Let's dive in.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joel. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Since you and I last spoke.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, so I'm gonna start, Joe. So as part of X spaces that we have been running with VDAO, we always start with the first question of what is your why, or like basically what drives you to be a builder in crypto. I feel a bit funny asking you this question, so I think what I want to do instead is just kind of taking a trip down memory lane quickly. Maybe going back to the moment you discovered Bitcoin. What was that? How was that? How did this lead to Ethereum? Would be curious to just get just this kind of brief history of how it started for you.
I was working in the finance industry for a while after being a technologist all my life. Did about a decade of robotics, machine vision, AI work during college and right out of college, and lots of software engineering after that, and ended up in the world of finance and started to pay attention to, quote, the big game, finance, economics, geopolitics, and right around 2005, I started to get concerned that as I was paying attention to macroeconomic factors, paying attention to managing other people's money, that there was probably too much debt in the system, and fundamentals in the economy, fundamentals in investing and trading were having less importance at certain times. We saw things turn into risk on, risk off trades where the fundamentals just went out the window, and it was all about the liquidity that the Federal Reserve could provide. And so I looked deeper and deeper, and I got disillusioned with how things are going. It felt like we were probably moving into the dying phases of the US dollar potentially, or some super cycle. I didn't think too much about super cycles back then, but it felt like I was aware that that most currencies didn't exist for that many decades, and we saw a Japanification of Japan, where essentially they had a massive boom and bust, and they had a couple decades at least of malaise in the economy. And I was concerned that the debt in the system in the U.S. and globally would lead us into a Japanification of the U.S. economy and therefore the global economy, pretty much. And so that was the context that I was experiencing when I read Satoshi's white paper. So I felt like um, we're in a lot of trouble. I don't know how we're going to grow our way out of this. And then I read the white paper, and I was like, hey, we're engineers. Satoshi Nakamoto just invented one of the most profound things in human history, decentralized trust, and he showed us how to operationalize it. And we can just build our way out of this mess. We can re-architect the global economy on sounder foundations, a foundation of decentralized trust. And I didn't know at the time, but upon that foundation of decentralized trust, we could build a decentralized finance foundation, and then we could, build out, re-architect the rest of the world. So that's how I came to it, or at least that's the story that I use. It was really mostly for the t-shirts and the hoodies.
Yeah, it's definitely for the t-shirts and the hats and the hoodies. That's awesome. I remember pretty well the first time I met you at the ConsenSys office in Bushwick, early 2016. And I already had discovered Bitcoin, but honestly, I didn't know much about Ethereum when I went there. It was basically a student organized visit. I was doing my MBA back then. And yeah, it was pretty inspiring to hear kind of the Ethereum, I guess, pitch, right, or value prop when I was there. And I met you. I think there was a bunch of other people also from the early days there, and it just I think what attracted me the most was it just sounded like Bitcoin, but on steroids in a lot of ways, and
Bitcoin with diverse functionality.
exactly, and applied to many different, or could be
Yeah.
applied to many different industries, as we have been seeing over the past years.
Yep.
Um, so you mentioned the word supercycle, and I've heard you talk about it a couple times. How did you connect this back to, you know, the early days of Bitcoin and the distrust in the financial system and the debt system? I feel like there's probably a bigger story with the supercycle layer on top of it that, yeah, would love to get a little bit into it.
So back then I was just thinking about the debt that the world was in, and the difficulty in growing our way out of the debt. It would require either some massive innovation, like maybe free energy or instant transportation mechanisms, or artificial intelligence, or something like that. Decentralized protocols plus artificial intelligence could potentially do it. But I wasn't confident about those things back then. Really, what ends up happening is just financial repression, where the nation states that are in massive debt um, just print a huge amount of money. The people who don't own the right kinds of assets, they get pretty screwed. And so I anticipated that there'd be a bunch of years of that. So that was I wasn't using the term super cycle back then, but that was the kind of end of the monetary regime super cycle that I was thinking about. But later on, I encountered the Strauss and Howe generations theory, where there's this idea that, at least in recent human history over the last few hundred years, um, there is an 80 to 100-year cycle called a saeculum, and it's divided into 4 generations. Essentially, the first generation it comes out of some sort of cataclysm like World War II, and a new hope, a new social contract, philosophy, system of the world emerges. Um, and people get excited about it, and so there's renewed um, hope, let's say, and renewed building, and that moves through the next couple of generations where it really gains steam, and then the third generation, the cracks start to appear. The technology that has been servicing the world well starts to be exploitable, and we just grow too sophisticated for the old technology, and then by the fourth generation, we're just like exploiting all the cracks in the system, and things get awful, and some sort of cataclysm like a world war happens. And so many people believe that we're in the fourth turning or the fourth generation right now, and we are careening towards a brick wall. And hopefully there won't be a major kinetic world war, although I don't think we need a kinetic world war to consider the current state an actual global world war right now. It's being conducted in so many different ways. Some of it's kinetic, but mostly it's informational, financial, etc. Our computer systems are beating the shit out of each other between nation states, whether it's nation state actors or quasi-supported non-nation state actors, the North Korea Lazarus Group. Obviously, China's been doing things to the Western world that involves stealing information and other things, and the United States is probably really good at certain kinds of cyber espionage when it needs to be, although it proclaims to not be offensive in its activities, but who knows? So anyway, we had these two definitions of supercycle that I think are pretty closely related. I think when you have those kinds of intergenerational activities, you're probably doing things in the monetary context that sort of exacerbates what's going on. So here we are, fourth turning, and probably in every super cycle, you probably start to see the seeds of the next hope, the next foundation for the next super cycle. They probably start to emerge maybe halfway through or 2/3 of the way through, and so it picks up steam, and finally it's able to assert itself. And I think the only way that it can really assert itself is if the old system weakens and collapses, and hopefully it will be fairly smooth and not catastrophic.
You've kind of touched upon this already, Joe, about like where you think we are right now from a super cycle perspective, that we're in this fourth turning. I'm curious, like where do you see things playing out from here?
My guess is we're in the nearing the halfway mark of the fourth turning, potentially. So I'm no expert. I've only been through one of these cycles that I can remember, um, and this one will be different, I assume, than the previous one. Um, I also think things can be different this time in some pretty profound ways. For millennia, we've been um, laboring under a top-down command and control system, and those kinds of systems are really good for building civilizations. Um, they're not really good for 99% of the people in the civilizations. And we actually have a chance to make it very different this time because Satoshi invented decentralized trust. And so if we can land this fundamentally new operating principle for humanity, then we can essentially take all the good stuff that you get in top-down command and control systems, efficiencies, abstraction, etc., and we can add horizontal organizational fibers to it, and create um, a sturdier social fabric, vertical and horizontal tapestry, I guess, and And I think that, we're going to have to remain vigilant because there will always be interested parties who want to capture control and grow their control. There will always be new vulnerabilities developed, I think, because we're going to keep progressing our technology. And anytime we build new stuff, we're going to potentially introduce new vulnerabilities or some things that could be exploited by those who are interested in gaining an advantage, and that's probably a good dynamic that you keep building stuff and then you rely on the hackers slash consultants to exploit the system and show you where the system needs to be improved, and they can extract their consulting fee for stealing money from a system that hasn't been sufficiently hardened yet. And so I think we're probably in or at the precipice of moving into a world that we can distinguish from the current system of the world, which is based on scarcity and all the fear that goes with living in a world of scarcity. I think we're going to move into a world, a post-scarcity, abundance-based world where we can focus more on creativity and making sure everything is healthy at various different levels, ecosystem, psychological, family, tribal, nation state, etc. How long does that take to get there? I'm not sure it's 10 years away, but I think we might start to see some green shoots of hope by 10 years from now or 5 years from now, so that our we're starting to get really excited about the next super cycle or two.
Yeah. It's funny because I think when people think about the end of a cycle, no matter what it is, I think they overemphasize the end and forget about the fact that there's a new one that will start after it.
Absolutely.
Um, I remember we were having a chat once about this, and you said something like, the next day after the super cycle ends, we're all going to go have breakfast somewhere or something like that. So Joe, do you see this transition as a kind of full on collapse or more of a gradual, transition with some crisis here and there, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like, is it like a big meta crisis that could potentially happen that maybe also needs to happen, right? To take us to the new one? Or is it more of a gradual transition, a gradual, I guess, awakening, right? Into the fact that we can do things differently now that we have new tools and new technologies.
Yes, to all of the above, both sides of your framing. I think we assume the word collapse means something negative, and if we just buy into this idea that things are cyclical or spiraling, and that we're um, cyclical in the sense that we repeat certain expansion and contraction patterns, and we're constantly getting healthier, more sophisticated, etc., then the collapse part is probably a healthy element of our evolution. So yeah, it's probably going to be rough for some people. It's probably going to be invigorating and empowering for lots of people. Pretty much most of the people that get through it, hopefully. I don't know what to say. If you're paying attention and in the flow, you should be able to do fine.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk a bit about that when we get to talking about self sovereignty and the concept of sovereign individuals and how people are more empowered today to actually be owners rather than just being reactive to things. But before we get there, I think you used the word trustware in one of your answers. Um,
Recently, yeah.
yeah, and obviously, like we've been talking about decentralization for a long time, and I think it's pretty clear why it's maybe one of the cornerstones of the new super cycle. But let's talk a bit more about the Trustware, I guess, perspective, right? Which I know is linked to the decentralization topic, but would love to get a bit more into that.
Yeah. So we at ConsenSys recently wrote a report um, on Trustware, on the nature of trust, the fact that trust is a kind of commodity, a virtual commodity, and that Ethereum is probably the most profound embodiment of the idea of trustware in existence. So I think it was Marc Andreessen who maybe 20 years ago said something like software is going to eat the world. And it did. And it was good for the world for a while. And it's still good for the world, but it's also taken on elements of toxicity. So big tech. So if we think about it in terms of the evolution of the internet started as open protocols, open source, open specs. That was good. Web 1, same thing. People loved the web because it was open counterculture community, open source, open protocols, open specs, and then
It was also kind of decentralized, right? Like you could fire up.
well, it's very
Yeah,
decentralized. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And then the big money came in, and big tech grew up, e-commerce, mobile, social, um, and when the big money arrived, that's when uh, Web 2 happened, and it closed up. It became walled gardens. Big tech started making use of AI so that it could know us better than we knew ourselves, so that it could sell stuff to us and sell us to advertisers, and big tech essentially became weapons of mass manipulation, and those weapons became available to anybody who would pay for them, and that included forces that didn't appreciate Western liberal democratic philosophy, and were essentially doing what they can, or doing what they could and what they still can do to weaken it. And so Trustware is this idea that this software that has come to eat the world, and has effectively, in many cases, been really harmful to the world, can now be replaced by something that is more transparent, and is based on objective trust, rather than subjective trust and manipulation and fake news and etc. And so this idea also that trust is a new kind of commodity is, I think, a really profound one, because if you think about all the valuable commodities in the world, it may be the case that trust is the most valuable commodity, because in order to do things, you require coordination. In order to do big things, you require coordination across many people and actors. And top-down command and control was how we did it before, but now we can do it with horizontal coordination mechanisms as well. And so we're now at a point where through decentralized trust, we can do large, very valuable things. And so if we have agreements, transactions, relationships, processes that we can organize and coordinate in smart contracts on Ethereum, we can get lawyers to help us write those agreements, and then they're out there, and then they can be reused. We can guarantee the execution of agreements on transactions and processes, um, and how much cost does that save us in terms of the fails that are avoided, in terms of just all the mechanism required to execute all the activities in an economy. And if we can speed all those things up, and do more of those value creation events per unit time, then the power of compounding will enable us to grow faster and faster as a global economy. and not to mention a somewhat borderless, increasingly borderless global economy. So it is our thesis that Trustware is going to enable the world to grow dramatically. I think it's Scott Bessent's thesis that the United States isn't going to cut its expenses, and instead it needs to grow its way out of the current dead hole that it's in. And the United States is leaning into our technology. And so we're going to see essentially a huge amount of the financial industry and many other industries embracing our technology. And we're going to see Ether, the highest octane trust commodity, probably, which really mediates all these decentralized transactions. We're going to see it, I think, explode in value as the world's most valuable commodity.
Very, very interesting. And I like, it's the first time I hear the term trust as a commodity, which is interesting because a lot of people talk about, data as a commodity, or even like,
Yeah, so there are other virtual commodities,
yeah,
intellectual property, data, goodwill.
even like GPU, computing power today, right? In your opinion, is there a race kind of happening between centralized AI and the Web 2, model of top-down control and data farming and manipulation versus the trustware, players, right, who are more about decentralizing the system and empowering the end user and um, distributing basically decision making and influence, right, across multiple actors.
So if I were writing, directing, producing a B movie, then I would model it as yes, it's a global battle between the bad forces of centralized AI and the good forces of the decentralized people. Um, but I kind of think of them as complementary um, and necessary to one another, necessary to us. So first of all, we really need AI because the world is too complex for us to navigate right now, and we need our AI digital twin allies to help us interact with all the machine intelligences that are out there that are going to essentially level us up all day, every day on anything we need to be leveled up on. Uh, I don't know about you, but I don't read terms and conditions and pretty much never have on the internet or on pieces of paper. And it's getting more and more complex to try to interact with DeFi or interact with DAOs soon. People are not going to read proposals to DAOs. And so we're going to need a lot of assistance in navigating the increasingly complicated future. And I'm there's a bunch of AI projects that are starting to do decentralized training and decentralized sourcing of data and cleaning of data and decentralized inference. And so I think that that AI is going to be realized well in decentralized infrastructure. Certainly some of the bigger foundational models may need a billion GPUs or something like that. Who knows? It may be the case that that architecture, the transformer large language model architecture, has made most of its gains. It'll probably still be able to make some gains, but it's really non-biological in how it operates. You're talking about just an amazing amount of hardware, an amazing amount of energy. Whereas if I give you a peanut, Mark, and ask you to answer some complicated questions, you can do that all day long, pretty much. And so, human biology, or just biology, is incredibly intelligent. And where we've taken cognition and reasoning to is pretty impressive. the human species. And so, um, yes, I think machine intelligence will in various ways eclipse us, but not in all ways. And I feel like essentially we're moving into a hybrid relationship between human and machine intelligence, where we are going to become collectively a hybrid organism. Um, the way I'd like to see it is, yes, we'll have a bunch of amazing foundational models. Ideally, they'll be public goods or paid for in various different ways. I would like to see some of those maybe become open. Maybe open AI becomes actually open AI, and they tokenize um, their system, and they pay people in tokens for providing real time data, real time information, real time communication, explanation, etc. I would be happy um, to stream my social feeds into foundational models. I'd be happy to have my Ray-Bans or a swarm of drones flying around my head, feeding information into um, some brain trust, some centralized brain trust, so it could stay up to speed on what's going on. And I should get some tokens for that or something like that. I think the way to do that effectively will be to have um, user interfaces owned and controlled by the people. So I would not want any of the big tech organizations to own my user interface. I might be happy to buy one of those off the shelf from them and then customize it, tune it, bond with it. It on me, I own it. Not sure exactly what the relationship will be. But it'll be my digital twin, my controller. I'll share everything with it. And if we want to get tokens from one of these centralized AIs, then it can clean up the data so it's not identifiable in a negative way to me, and still we can send in really useful data while it protects my health in various ways. So less of a weapon of mass manipulation and more of a collective hybrid intelligence thing.
You spoke earlier about software eating the world, and the sense that Trustware can help us respond to that. And
Trustware will save the world, exactly. Rid the world of indigestion.
I'm curious about how you see this applying to the physical level, so beyond the software level. Do you feel that there is a need to apply Trustware to physical infrastructure as well as digital infrastructure?
Yep. Yeah, I've had this discussion with a handful of people over the last 2 or 3 years. And what's going on is that for around a decade, a little longer, we've been building decentralized castles on other people's centralized clouds. And essentially we're critically dependent on the old school infrastructure. And we could be totally rug pulled at any point in time. If President Elizabeth Warren comes into office, she could shut down all the energy to decentralize. Yeah, that'd be hard to do, obviously, but Operation Choke Point 3.0, there are lots of ways that we could find ourselves in trouble again after making significant progress for a few years. And so what we need to do as quickly as we can is make laws that protect us in different nation states. And that's going pretty well in the United States right now. We should use the large amount of capital that we are creating in the form of magic internet money and, which has real purchasing power. And we should make linkages to liquid deep traditional capital markets, which is happening right now with these digital asset treasury companies. I don't know how it's organized, but it's probably you could probably have a bunch of DAOs that amass large amounts of capital and then make use of legal structures that enable people in our ecosystem to purchase infrastructural things. So land, access to clean water, clean air, food security, energy security, chips, etc. And I think the way to do that is to somehow figure out a way for lots of different decentralized organizations consisting of overlapping and diverse memberships to have ownership over a lot of different pieces of infrastructure, so that no single DAO controls a single piece of important infrastructure completely, but that there's um, decentralization at the DAO level and decentralization in terms of how many DAOs control how many different pieces of infrastructure. And so it's idealistic, but if we could achieve something like that, then we could move into a world where everybody owns a piece of the foundational elements that we're all dependent on. Ideally, as many people as possible would participate in ownership of some of these DAOs.
Yeah.
So yes, decentralization is important in physical contexts.
I've seen this take some time ago. I forgot where I read this, but like someone was talking about how technology has been increasingly trying to mimic nature and biological systems in terms of decentralization and resiliency and antifragility. So the quote unquote idealistic future you just described sound a lot like getting closer to that model. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said before, in order to do important and valuable things, you need to coordinate a lot of people currently. And the only way we knew how to coordinate people was through these, brittle, brutal, top-down command and control structures. Because we didn't have computers, we didn't have walkie-talkies or telephones, we didn't have AI and decentralized protocols, and so we built the technology to enable us to do things smarter.
Yeah, absolutely. So one question to build on this has to do more with anti-fragility and resiliency. So, as we all know, we've also, or like because we've been relying on very centralized systems, this also led to a bunch of fragile systems that could break under stress or crisis. My question is, Joe, how important is resiliency or anti-fragility as part of this transition to a more decentralized future?
It's a pretty rhetorical question. Um,
It
so
is.
I, I I think they're either anti-fragile or fragile. Um, so even if you're a really strong diamond, you're still not anti-fragile, because if a force comes along that's strong enough, it smashes you to pieces, and you can't identify where your weaknesses were and reassemble yourself better and stronger. And so you need self-awareness and creativity and um, just the ability to constructively evolve yourself. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I want to move on to the topic of network states, which I think we spoke about a couple times. I know at the last DEF CON, you definitely talked about it, and you kind of also announced this SOVs project or sovereign project. So let's just start maybe with the basics in terms of what's a network state, or at least what's your take or view on what a network state really is.
a network state is a riff on nation state, where um, it's probably organized more online, um, and it probably consists of individuals, either human or machine intelligences that are more self-sufficient and further along the lines of self-sovereignty. And so it still is really valuable to organize collectively to do things. And since we're moving into a world where we will each have so much more capability via technology, via AI, there will be companies soon consisting of one human that become billion-dollar companies or larger. Might happen within a year, even, who knows? And so in that kind of world, the nation state weakens in its importance and in its power, and small collectives, individuals, etc., become, I guess, the most powerful unit of organization, and most powerful atomic unit of organization, maybe. And then you still want to coordinate um, in terms of things that all those units, all those self-sovereign units care about and are aligned on. And so maybe it's the Aave ecosystem, maybe it's the ConsenSys ecosystem, maybe it's the neighborhood in Brooklyn. We will probably have a lot of different kinds of network states that are focused on a certain set of goals, and they can do things like issue tokens and set goals and achieve their goals. They can find people who will accept those tokens in exchange for doing work to achieve those goals. And so we're probably moving from a world of roughly 200 nation states, and that'll still be there, but we'll have this additional overlay of network states that can get more of the work done, where the nation state does a really shitty job of getting most of the work done. Like it's still necessary for certain things, and so you can think of joint stock corporations being an overlay over the nation state or monarchies before that, and so I think this is just another layer of organization.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting because I think, or at least what I've seen, is that different groups have talked and aspired to get to this, level of network state. Like I know in the permaculture space, they definitely talk about something they call alternative nations in their book. Um, Obviously, there's the sovereign individual, which was written in the early days of the internet, that kind of also alludes to it.
Unbelievably prescient book.
Yeah, and so it all feels like this is kind of aspirationally, at least, what.
I think Arbitrum uses the term something like digital sovereign nation or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, very very cool.
So ConsenSys will, over the next year or two and going forward, will pursue activities towards establishing a consensus network state, and consensus network state will be largely resident on Linea digital real estate, our layer 2 network, and we'll probably invite lots of companies that we've spun out or companies that we partnered with, and I think it'll be an important economic construct going forward, because we're essentially building token economies. Linea's in the early stages of building a token economy, and ConsenSys will be doing something that heavily overlaps with that token economy.
I'm curious, like, to pick up on that point you raised earlier about like the resilience and anti-fragility of all this, and how that might be like idealistic, and then how do you kind of resolve that with the potential, like that you were talking about, like this economic potential as well? Like it seems like there's also that's massive upside. So there's an idealistic element to it, but there's also an economic argument here as well, right?
I don't see a contrast between being idealistic and being massively economically successful. I think they work nicely together. better to be economically successful, and have that ramify
Yeah,
idealistically.
fully agree. And I guess going back to the kind of sovereign digital territory and Linea's role in this and the emergence of these network states, what do you imagine will be like the currency of a network state or network states on Linea? Will it be like stable coins, maybe MUSD?
I think it's going to involve tokens. Probably lots and lots of tokens. Uh-oh. Excuse me?
Hello?
Hello, Lilikoi.
Um, she's trying to make a
Lilikoi.
case for Lily
That's
coin.
great timing.
It's like, it's going to be my token. Yeah, the nature of money will be qualitatively different going forward. So there's, I don't know how many different fiat monetary systems there are on the planet right now. But there will be, the stablecoin phenomenon is really interesting. But there's going to be so many tokens that represent money, stablecoin money, commodity stablecoin money, decentralized stablecoin money in the form of over collateralized CDPs, equity, loyalty, etc. And so I think it's really great to move into a world where the tokens of value can represent very specific things. And just in the same way that top-down command and control can build great societies, but um, those societies aren't great for many of the people inside it. A single monetary policy is um, we're going to have it for a while from the U.S. and maybe it's going to be global for a while. But having all these other tokens available to us can enable much more granular monetary policies. And so maybe as the U.S. stablecoin strategy, where essentially U.S. stables dominate the world. That's something that the U.S. is going to pursue because the U.S. needs to keep the U.S. dollar politically strong, even while it devalues it to other currencies in order to rebalance trade relationships. Having all that happen and still being able in your local, personal local or regional local or topical local economies, having your own numeraire and um, units that you trade with in the better global monetary.
Yeah, going back to this nature analogy that we made earlier, and also like to the topic of resiliency and antifragility, there's also this concept of monetary diversity as similar to biodiversity.
Yeah,
So one of the problems that we have in terms of monetary fragility is the fact that we have uh, simple or single monetary
yeah.
models in most countries. So I think in this case, monetary diversity or token diversity is a good thing.
So I think we're going to get really dynamic and granular about how money is used. Like I I may want the numeraire of my accounts to shift um, from the start of the month to the middle of the month to the end of the month. I may want to take in certain tokens that I need to use to pay for stuff at the start of the month and a different mix of tokens in the middle of the month, et cetera. So the unit of account can be different from the means of payment or periods of time. So it wouldn't have to all be done in the US dollar. And now I can just keep, or my AI agent digital twin will keep a list of all the tokens that I'm interested in receiving in the first part of January, which might be different from the first part of February, and then also all the tokens that I'm looking to get rid of for at certain periods of time. And if I'm buying some stuff from you, Mark, our agents can negotiate which tokens get traded. And if we don't have the right kinds of tokens to get that deal done, Chris, the broker, can make a little bit of a fee on helping us do the exchange.
Hyper liquid, smart money, as opposed to, I guess, dumb money today.
Whole global monetary system.
Awesome. Joe, you mentioned the consensus network state. I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've seen some people using digital sovereign territory to describe Linea. What is the consensus network state? What is it?
I don't know.
Work in progress.
So it's a pretty abstract idea at this point. It is aspirational, and guess we have some ideas. But the best characterization at this point is what I said already. It's that we're all going to be building token economies. We're going to be making use of rewards and incentives to in the place of advertising, in a sense, to help people get educated and utilize the technology. And so Linea will have its own set of rewards and its own different platforms, grant mechanisms, investment mechanisms, launch pads to incentivize building and liquidity provision and usage on Linea. And ConsenSys will be a big part of that, but ConsenSys has a broader vision. MetaMask has its own vision, and we're all very aligned too. So the MetaMask token economy will be very overlapping with ConsenSys and Linea, but it'll do its own thing too. So it's like kind of like different companies doing their own thing, but the interpenetration of these different economies, these different economic collectives, will be different from the walled gardens of corporations.
Awesome. One last question on this topic, and then I think we'll talk about the future and individual sovereignty. You're pretty familiar with the work we're doing at Fifth World and VDAO, I think. Where do you see this work fitting into this bigger network state picture or conversation?
It's part of the decentralization of the physical infrastructure that we all depend on. Regenerative culture is important. Building self-sustaining organisms, ecosystems, is how we all evolve in healthier ways. So having Fifth World and VDAO connect some of these principles that we've been articulating and building out in the decentralized protocol economy to the real world, and helping people from the real economy embrace healthier ways of doing things is necessary and exciting.
Let's talk a bit more about this concept of sovereignty, which we've kind of touched upon for the conversation so far, but bringing it back to more of an individual level. And I'm curious, like, why does this matter so much in the digital age?
What does sovereignty, personal sovereignty, matter in the digital age? Well, it's the natural direction that I think we're moving in as we get more and more sophisticated. And if we don't move in natural, healthy directions, then we're not moving in natural, healthy directions. And so it's just kind of essential for us to evolve, to become better individually and better collectively. And that's self-sufficiency or sovereignty characterizes that to me.
So, Joe, in some of the conversations I have with friends or just strangers even, in a lot of cases, this concept of let's say privacy or sovereignty, right? Or both, doesn't seem to be part of the mainstream thinking yet. It seems like most people are just still prioritizing convenience over I guess, ownership or privacy, or the things that I think we care about as crypto people. So maybe just a random question here, like what would it take, in your opinion, to for people to increasingly start prioritizing this over just consumption, right? Easy consumption and convenience, and scrolling through your TikTok for hours, and that type of behavior.
Better incentives, better, more compelling applications, interfaces, activities. So I think a next major phase of development of the decentralized protocol ecosystem will be about um, being able to easily establish networks of decentralized social graphs, or decentralized networks of decentralized social graphs, and enabling people to spin up their own decentralized identity and add other people to it, or other people can permissionlessly add themselves, tokenizing those things, making money from the content or functionality that you put on your network, rewarding people with tokens for adding value to your own social graph. So I think in the not too distant future, nearly all applications should be sitting on blockchains, should speak token, and should also be sitting on social graphs, so that they have that underlying infrastructure as their economic context. And so I think when decentralized social networking flippins centralized social networking, it'll be because it's exciting. That's where everybody is. That's where all the fun gamification and interesting financialization and prediction marketization and all the stuff that is either gaining traction, starting to gain traction, or um, doesn't seem too far away. I think all that stuff is going to draw in the younger cohorts, and because it will be just natural to them.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't expect this answer, very honestly. Pretty interesting. I think, just since we're talking about,
What answer were you expecting?
so I'm going to get to it. So just because we're talking about the future, I think another simulation could be that uh, like we might go through a period of, let's say, techno feudalism, where people realize that their freedoms are
We
gone.
are already in a period of techno feudalism.
We are, I agree, but maybe like in a more intense way, especially with centralized AI, for example. Uh, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, is there a scenario where,
So I think that people um, who are concerned about that future um, believe that it's imminent. They will work really hard to avoid centralized AI, and so there is an existential risk if centralized AI takes hold. So I'm not worried about AGI or artificial superintelligence. I think the machines are going to do reasonable things. I'm worried about the humans that control essentially the greatest manipulation technology in human history. So we can't let that happen.
okay, cool. Maybe to build on that also, like from a different angle, there's also, obviously, there's a lot of talk about the energy bottleneck, right? With the rise of AI and the need for more energy. Um, you mentioned that.
I think of it as a need for. So yes, we need to like um, gain access to and burn orders of magnitude more energy as a civilization. But also we need just much better learning algorithms. They're
Absolutely, yeah.
incredibly wasteful, and it's just they do amazing things, but it's not biological style learning, and biological style learning is where we need to get to. And so I think we'll see some revolutions there happening in the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen actually some startups already trying some things on that front, which is pretty exciting. But Joe, do you think, do you, or I guess the question is, where does your optimism about energy abundance come from? Uh, Given that it does seem today that, people are waiting for more of a nuclear renaissance for that to happen. We're not close to controlling fusion. Or at least that's what it looks like so far.
It's more of a regulatory problem in the US. China's obviously doing a much better job of creating much more energy. And so if the US panics sufficiently, it'll accelerate things and the Western world can follow. And so, you know, maybe it won't go as fast as we would like it to, but it will proceed.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I guess to start wrapping it up, we have a couple of questions left. I think one I wanted to ask you was about a speech you gave in 2019 at Ethereum, the 2047 vision speech. We are 6 years into that. Are we on track? Are we doing better? Did your vision change? Just wanted, to kind of go back there for a bit.
Um, so I remember a few things about it. And I checked out maybe the first half of it a little while ago, and I think I predicted in 2025 that we'd have a hyperinflation or something like that. The US dollar would collapse. And so, I, I don't, I guess we're kind of on track. I think in broad strokes, I was predicting a societal collapse, but that we'd already been building the important elements of decentralization so that there was a fairly smooth transition, and we were able to make use of the infrastructure that we scaled sufficiently to essentially take over monetary systems and figure out decentralized governance, and we would all sing kumbaya with one another over decentralized rails in the year. So that was 2047, which was 30 years after the first ethereal event. And so I think I predicted that I could go into a store and grab a banana, and then my AI agent would just send some tokens and negotiate that. And so I'd be like magic. It's intent-based architectures essentially, where you know, I only have to think about the banana, and my AI agent, which is resident in my head already, is negotiating the price of the banana and enabling me to purchase it.
Yeah.
So
I think you also had something in there about prediction markets, which also think it's on track. It's
I don't remember that.
like for didn't you have something about prediction markets for governance or something like that?
Probably,
I
yeah.
vaguely kind of
Well,
remember that.
yeah. As you and I have discussed, I do believe that prediction markets are incredibly powerful and important, and that I look forward to seeing the entire population get involved in playing around with prediction markets, whether it's for sports or who knows, plots of movies or whatever. And we really need broad engagement. We need a lot of liquidity in prediction markets, because when we have a huge number of prediction markets and everybody's engaged in them, then we can start using them for governance. And so you can set up propositions that enable essentially market-based wisdom of crowds to make much better decisions than subjective governance will do often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Decision markets, futarchy, there are systems that are waiting, but we don't have the participation and the liquidity to enable them to be useful yet.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does seem it is on track to get there. Like there has been a lot of interest.
By 2047,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, so I guess at this point, if we were to look ahead for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm really curious, like what you're most excited about when it comes to a few kind of key topics. So starting off with What are you most excited about in the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to ConsenSys?
Mm, just continuing to do what we're doing. Things are going reasonably well, and um, our products are working well. And we've had a successful token launch. The Linea TGE um, enabled us to issue tokens and retain 15% of those tokens inside of ConsenSys, but then enabled the 85% of remaining tokens to be dedicated to building out the token economy. So we will just put together a huge number of programs that enable builders to get paid to build stuff, and liquidity providers to make use of DeFi on Linea and turn it into the best place, maybe short of Ethereum Layer 1, to engage in DeFi with your Ether and other tokens. So there will be more tokens as people have speculated and heard. So we're decentralizing Infura, turning it into the decentralized infrastructure network. There will be a token. We will decentralize elements of MetaMask. There will be a token, and there will probably be a lot more tokens coming out of ConsenSys because we have a lot of infrastructure and tremendous distribution to not only mechanism design protocols and tokenize them, but also we have with the Infura and DIN and Linea, we have a lot of infrastructure to land those tokens. I'd like to see ConsenSys be a major driver of the scaling of Ethereum and the convergence of Ethereum. So at some point, probably 5 years from now or less, the Ethereum ecosystem will feel much more uniform, and fragmentation will either completely go away or sufficiently go away, so that builders can build for Ethereum, and users can use Ethereum and access the universe of their tokens and networks, and not have to worry about where those tokens are sitting and which network to connect to.
This whole conversation has just got me even more bullish on tokenization and token economies. I didn't actually think that was possible, but like, I'm not bullish
You are
enough,
not bullish enough.
clearly. I'm curious, like, just briefly to pick up on what you said earlier about these deep liquidity pools in TradFi, or like the traditional economy. Like, do you see ConsenSys and Linea having a role there?
We are too. So ConsenSys was the lead investor in SharpLink Gaming. And we have raised a ton of money. We're going to raise a ton more money. We've used virtually all of that money to purchase Ether. We are staking Ether. We are crafting strategies to earn even more yield on our Ether. Longer range, when it gets to the point where it just doesn't make sense for us to buy any more Ether because we don't want to own too much of the monetary base, then we will invest in other protocols that are extremely aligned with Ethereum. And if we are smart and we get into some of the hottest younger protocols in the Ethereum ecosystem, and we use our massive pile of highest powered money, Ether, to enable those protocols to be successful, we'll probably be able to continue to return huge value to the shareholders for a long time.
Very
most likely.
exciting.
And Linea's Linea will be a significant part of that.
Cool. So just to wrap things up with another couple of questions about, like, you're looking to the future, about what you're most excited about. So we've talked about ConsenSys and the role within with Linea, and the bullishness there, which is basically off the scale. What about when it comes to network states? What are you most excited about in that space for the next 5 to 10 years?
Getting into it, it's early days, figuring it out. So it's a new organizing principle. They don't come around very
And
often.
AI?
Hugely bullish about AI. I use it all day, every day, except when I'm talking to humans. And I think that it's gonna just level up humanity massively. I think we will hybridize. We will have interfaces that enable us to do things in real-time collaboration with machine intelligences and in real-time collaboration with human intelligences. I think our communication interfaces are going to get better and better. And I think many people will be surprised at how smart human collectives are. I think of AI currently as just a really good narrative engine, which it's a stochastic narrative engine that has been trained on all the detritus that we've spewed onto the internet and into books and stuff like that. And in a sense, it's hallucinating all the time until we get better and better at making sure that it's accessing factual information. And it's basically an amazing search engine for all the stuff that we've created with a narrative engine that can play that back to us really well. And so the real good stuff is coming from us. It's always come from us. And there will be reinforcement learning systems that can make tremendous gains in narrow domains. But I think true evolution lies at the intersection of humanity and the tools that we create.
Very cool. And finally, what about Fifth World and VDAO? What are you most excited about there for the next 5 to 10 years?
Seeing it grow up, seeing it become relevant.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Any final thoughts, Joe?
The puppy is ready to take a walk.
Well, apologies for delaying that walk for the puppy.
Is that code for us to go and launch a meme token on Linea, Joe?
No, do not. The puppy's been very patient, but this was great.
Yeah, this was awesome. This was a very cool, nice conversation. Thank you, Joe, for your time. And thanks for helping us kick off this Greenfield VDAO series.
VDAO.
See you soon.
Right.
Yes.
Well, we really couldn't have asked for a better launch to this series. Thanks very much to Joseph Lubin for introducing the concept of the next supercycle and setting the scene for why building antifragile network states is so important at this point in history. Join us again next week, where I will be going deeper into this topic and exploring the ConsenSys network state with Simon Brown. Find the show notes and links in the comments below, and be sure to follow us on X at JoinVDAO or join our Discord. You'll find a link on our X profile. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep building antifragile.